Hello, everybody. Just want to do a video on the future tenses from Michael Vence. I believe it's you, lecture seven, and in the book it is unit two. I believe in the book you should have all of this. We're just going to the wonderful Michael Vence, advanced language practice. And we just want to talk about the future tense. Where do we use it? How do we use it today? It's fairly straightforward. There are a few things we'll talk about that are a little more complicated that might end up or probably will end up on your credit test, however we figure out how to do this credit test this year. But so we kind of want to go over that. And let me see here if I can get this going. So yeah, we have here is our future tense, and something doesn't seem to be working here. All right, so future tense, they're fairly easy in English. I know most of you have been using will and going to for a long time, and I get a lot of questions from teaching English, like when do we use will, when do we use going to? And it's not all that difficult and in English, but we're going to talk about three other ways we can use or talk about the future in English. And one of those is present continuous, and then future continuous, and then future perfect. So, and we've talked a little bit about the difference between continuous tenses and perfect tenses. Again, a continuous tense, this idea that something's happening and covers this period of time. And very often there's an interruption in there. And then the perfect tense is that there's the idea that we're speaking about a specific period in time and then something that comes before it. That can be a past perfect. Here's a specific period in the past, and we're talking about a period before it. Present perfect, where we're talking about now, something now, and then a period before it. And then future perfect, it's going to function similarly, but it's in the future. We're talking about something out here in the future, and then the specific point, and then something that happens before it. And again, I know these future tenses are confusing, and hopefully we can begin to crack that nut of using them properly. So this is what we're going to focus on. We'll start with will. And will, I know most of you use, and it's quite simple. One thing to remember about will, that is it functions as a modal verb. Modal verb. Modal verbs being verbs like would, could, should. So grammatically, it follows those grammar rules. So for example, there we have here, there is no to after will and another verb. So we have like just will go, will eat, will buy. All right. And it doesn't matter if it's first person or third person or second person, but there will always, will doesn't change. It always stays the same. If it's positive, of course, if it's negative, it will be won't or will not. But whatever the subject is, it stays the same. So he will, they will, we will, Sally will. And if we have a second verb after will, there will be no to in between. So just like any other modal verb, it's the same with should and could and would. We have another verb after those modal verbs. There's never a to in between. We'll study modal verbs next semester. And so when do we use it? That's what we want to kind of figure out. Will's fairly easy to create and make. You should be able to do that at this point. Be able to put together a question or a negative, won't, or I'm not going to go into that because hopefully you know how to do that. But what we want to focus on is when do we use it, and especially in comparison to going to. When do we use going to? When do we use will? And are there big differences there? Are there places we can use them? We can choose which one to use, and the grammar is correct. It doesn't matter if I use going to or will. And we want to look at all that today. So we'll just start with will. Vince goes into this as well, in unit 2. And so we talk about we can talk about predictions or facts, like something that we believe is true. It's a prediction for the future. We're talking about a future that we believe, like, here we have Frank Toyer will be rich one day. So why do I believe Frank Toyer will be rich? Because he works hard, he gets up, it's his ambition, it's his goal to be rich. He takes it seriously. That's all he cares about, is being rich and being successful. And I believe one day he will, because he's not lazy. He just doesn't sit in front of his computer. So now this is future. I don't know that for sure, but it's a prediction. All right. Or we have the second one. I don't think Tibor will win the race on Sunday. His ankle isn't 100%. Like, I don't know, maybe Tibor will win the race. We don't know, but this is a prediction I'm doing because I know that Tibor's ankle is injured, that he has a little trouble with his ankle. So again, a prediction. And then we have Jack will get fired before the end of the month. Jack's messing up at work. We all know it. He's not showing up on time. He doesn't do his job, and he always has excuses. And it's just like, it's a prediction. It's a prediction. Now, another place we use will is an assumption. And I don't know if you know what this means, but assumption comes from the verb assume. And it means I just accept it to be true. All right. And so we make assumptions all the time. And because we assume things are going to happen or assume things to be true. So an assumption here is there's a knock on my door, and I can't see through the door. I don't know who it is, but I assume it will be Tom. So I say, oh, that'll be Tom. It's kind of British English, but that will be Tom. You can see here, because I asked him to stop by, right? I asked Tom to come and drop off a book. And so the door rings, or there's a knock on the door. Oh, that'll be Tom, And here's another assumption. Children make these assumptions all the time about their parents. We have trouble. We don't have enough money. We're going to get kicked out of our flat. And we call Maminka, and, Mommy, we're gonna have to ask her, and we're like, okay, she'll help us out. She'll help us out. We're just assuming that. All right, we're assuming that. Like, so for example, I'm going to travel to California, let's say in January, and I'm just like, oh, the weather will be lovely. I don't know that. I mean, it could rain when I'm there, but the weather will be lovely, because usually the weather in January in California is lovely. It's usually warm. It's usually 20 degrees and sunny every day. All right. So this is an assumption, and this is where we use will. We use will first with predictions and these assumptions. And then another place we use will is a decision that's made right now. All right. And think of this as when you're in the restaurant. I like to use this as an example. If you're in a restaurant and you're looking at the menu and you don't really know, here's your menu, you don't really know, and the waiter comes over and you're like, okay, yes, I'll take the Ledvinki Sriji. I don't know why anyone would take that personally, but that's what you will have. You decide right now. And this is key. This is one of the differences we'll see between going to and will. Will is if I make a decision right now, I'm going to use will. And here's and we want to put that in context. So if I say, okay, I'll go to the party, but I need to come home early. Like, what is the context? What does that mean? That means that I know about this party. You invited me to go to this party, and I haven't made a decision. And you're like, come on, let's go. It's gonna be fun. I'm like, yeah, I don't know, maybe yes, maybe no. Then I'm like, okay, I'll go, but I have to be home early because Bojanka will yell at me if I come home after 11. She does. That's what she does. All right. So I made that decision right now. Okay, I'll go. So it's the decision I've made right now. Okay, I'll have the lead binky. Okay, I'll go to the party. And again, here's an example with the chicken salad. I'll have the chicken salad. So when we're not sure what we're going to decide and we decide right now, it's going to be will. Keep that in mind. Now, we use it also, will, when we make a threat. And I think you know what a threat is. So here's an example. If you don't give me 100 euros right now, I will tell your boyfriend what you did. All right, you don't want that. You don't want your boyfriend to know what you did. All right, this is a threat. I'm threatening you. I will, and be quiet or we'll kill you. All right, these are all threats. Like if you, I mean, it kind of, this is connected to conditional a sentence always, but not, I mean, it can be, but not always. But so it's a very simple idea. We can think of hundreds of threats. You can think of hundreds of threats where you would threaten somebody and like, so, it's a manipulation, it's a threat. It's like, we use will. We use will in that situation. We can also use it in a refusal. If you refuse something, all right, we very often use the negative here. And the best way to kind of learn these rules is to think of them and then learn examples and create your own examples. So we have, here we have Drew won't pay for that. He's cheap because Drew refuses. We know that he won't go there. Here it's negative, right? It's like, I offered to take Drew, to fly Drew with me to Amsterdam, but Drew won't pay for that. He won't go. He's cheap. He's refusing to go with me. All right. Or dad won't loan you money for that. Again, notice that this is negative. It's a refusal. The idea is you're refusing an offer. You're refusing when you want to speak about somebody's refusing something you offered them or an opportunity. This grammar will be probably negative, won't, and it has this idea that in the future, we're speaking about in the future, and we just kind of know this. We kind of accept it, all right? And the opposite of that is an offer, which we have down here at number 6. And we have, will help you with the housework so you can go out with you later. So it's like I'm making an offer. I'm like, hey, Bojanka, Klidna, maybe. Bojanka, calm down. Don't worry. I'll cook dinner on Friday so you can keep studying for your driver's exam. She's like still doesn't have her driver's license. She's got to take her driver's test. She's worried about it, freaking out. I'm like, whoa. And she's like, oh, I have to cook. No. Hey, I'll cook so you can study. All right, so this is an offer. Hey, come with us. I'll buy you a smajak. This is like, some offer that's being made. All right. And then we also use it in the sense of a promise. And again, Vince gives examples of these, and they're all used in the exercises, what I put up on the Moodle. Promise, it's not a big one. It's like, I think it's fairly simple. Don't worry, I won't eat the rest of your cheesecake. You're promising something. It's much like an offer. There's not always a big difference between an offer and a promise. The idea is the same. You know, I will cook dinner for you on Friday. I'll pay for your smajak. We will wait for you. We will wait for you. This is an offer. This is kind of like a promise, all right? So these are the 7 places we use them, as you can see. So we have predictions or facts, an assumption, and number 3 is probably the most important at this point. As far as we'll get into that with going to, it's something that we decide right now. But let's go to going to. And now, of course, we want to talk about when we use it. And the first thing I want to say is that going to does function as present continuous grammatically, because the structure of it is we are going to, the verb to be plus going to. He or she is going to. We are going to. So the grammar is the same. Going to is present continuous. It really is grammatically. But it's exclusively, almost exclusively, 100% has an idea of the future. And we generally, with going to, connect a verb after going to, but we don't have to, but very often we do. And so that's the main thing. It functions, just remember, I'm assuming you know how to create it, hopefully at this time, and put it together. How do you make a question? How do you use the negative? I am not going to. Is Boženka going to? Those kinds of things. You know how to do that. I'm not going to get into it, but I want you to remember it functions as present continuous. Now, so the first way we use, and this is the big difference between going to and will, and some of you hopefully know this, that it's something that's I've already, or the speaker has already decided, all right? It's not new information, and the decision was made before I'm speaking, okay? So when we have Shirley is going to Madrid for Christmas, we know that. Shirley decided 2 months ago with, her best friends, they're not going to stay here and eat carp and potato salad. They want to go to Spain and experience a Spanish Christmas, So they decided 2 months ago. It's not new information. That decision is made. Tom and I are going to see Putin on his Eastern European reunion tour. Tom and I made that decision last week. We didn't decide it right now. So it's planned, it's in my calendar. Or we have, I can't go to the Zabava. I'm going to study on Saturday night because I have a big test on Monday and I'm not going out. I'm not going to party this weekend. I want to keep my brain fresh, So I'm not going to the Zabava, all right, even though I want to. So I know this already. This is not something I'm deciding right now. And this is the big difference between going to and will. Will is a decision I'm making right now, and going to is this decision that's been made before, all right? And those are like kind of 2 ways that you can really, that's how you can think of a difference between going to and will. And number 2, it describes an event where we can see the cause. So going to is an idea, there's something more certain about going to than will. And I know some of these differences are difficult to understand. especially for non-native speakers. Like as native speakers, we just use them instinctively, but these distinctions sometimes can get confusing. So if I see a situation and I'm like almost 100% sure I'm going to use going to, I need to use going to. So here we have, oh my gosh, that car is going to hit the tree. So I look out the window, I see the car, it's spinning around, the driver has lost control, it's heading towards a tree. It hasn't hit the tree, but I'm like, oh, it's going to hit the tree. Boom, it hits the tree. Or it just missed. That was close. But I am, it's certain. It's like it's really like almost in my mind, it's 100%. All right. So because will is more of a prediction. Will would be more like if you drive that car with those bad tires, you will hit a tree. That's a prediction. Okay. But if I say he's going to hit that tree, it's like more certain. So, here's another classic example. I believe Yo Man Michael Vince uses it. Look at those clouds. It's going to rain. We can see that it's going to rain. I would say like, look, it's going to be a really long dark winter because we're going to be on lockdown. Yeah, it's only November, but it's going to be a long dark winter. I don't know, maybe it won't, but it's like it's like I'm almost certain. All right. So, and this is another distinction. It's a little more, going to is more certain than will. Now, and again, now we're going to focus on, those are the main places I want you to think of going to. Predictions are not, no, sorry, that's a mistake, not predictions. For decisions made in the past, not made now. Will is decisions that are made now. And, excuse me, and for something that seems certain, that's going to. Now, we want to talk about what are the differences then a little more concretely. We've discussed them a bit. And I said, in general, will is less certain than going to. But again, sometimes there's not a big distinction. It's not like using one in this situation is wrong. It's just you're changing what you're communicating a little bit, and the exact information. And there's not a big difference. And this is my example here. I'll help you with that. All right, I'll help you with that. And what does that mean? Like I know that here. Like I know on Friday, you have to carry 3 boxes upstairs in your Pontiac in the afternoon. And I'm like, don't worry, I'll help you with that. I'm kind of making an offer there. I'm telling you that I'll do it, in this way. But if I say I'm going to help you with that, it's like, what's the context there? Is there a difference? Both of those, the grammar's good. And so there's a little difference in meaning there. I'm going to help you with that. It means like, yeah, okay, hey, you're like, hey, will you be here on Friday or not? Are you going to help me or not with the boxes? And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you because we've talked about it before, And here, so it's like, yeah, there's a little bit different meaning. It's like, I will help you with that. Means that I'll help you with that. Don't worry. All right. Now, here's something, both are used for predictions. All right. And we talked about will being used for predictions. Jack will ask Betty out for a coffee after the exam. Jack is going to ask Betty out for a coffee after the exam. So, there may be a slight nuance in meaning there. you know, but you can use, you know, um, but it's, again, both of them are used for predictions, and I don't want to like get into the like, so my point is there are places where we can use will. You can decide to use will and going to, and the difference in meaning is rather small. So it's much better to um, find the places where there is real difference between where are the places where there's a real difference between will and going to. Let's look at these. So like I write here, we can use them interchangeably and the meaning doesn't change, but sometimes it does. So will you go to the cinema this evening or not? Are you going to the cinema with us this evening? So what is the uh, difference here? And again, it's not even incredibly huge, but it says, will you go to the cinema this evening or not? You have never told us if you're going or not. We've asked you like 3 times and you've never said yes or no. You've never, it's like, we don't know. We're waiting for your decision. We're waiting for your decision. And this one is, are you going to the cinema with us this evening? It's like, uh, you know about it. You've said probably yes that you're going, but now I know that you're sick. You have the flu, you're, not feeling well. And then I'm like, oh, are you going? Are you going? This is a conversation. You said yes before, but now I want to know, are you going to the cinema with us this evening? So when I say I'm going to eat, the next one here, I'm going to eat at Martin's house. All right. I made that decision. All right. Yeah, like 2 days ago, because Martin's dad is making, burritos. I love burritos. Martin invited me over, so I'm going to eat at Martin's house. That's old news. And oh, but I was going to eat at Boženka's uncle's house in Lovečkovice on Friday. But I just heard that Martin's dad is cooking burritos, so I'll eat at Martin's house instead. I've decided right now. Okay. It means I'll eat at Martin's house. It's like, oh, well, look, I'll eat it, So, and again, these are not big differences. They're kind of interchangeable. Uh, you know, um, so, so again, with going to and will, those are our two basic future tenses, and I don't want you to get hung up on them. I want you to remember that will is a modal verb, and that it functions grammatically as a modal verb. Going to functions as present continuous, and will is more a decision we make right now, and going to is a decision that was made in the past. We already know it's not new information. Those are kind of the two biggest things, all right? So let's talk about present continuous, because a lot of people don't think of it, but we use present continuous in the future quite a bit. It just comes naturally, because if you remember, like I just said, going to grammatically is essentially present continuous. So, and it more or less follows the same rules as going to. We use it in the same way we use going to, with like old information, decisions we've made in the past, things that have already been decided, and I'm explaining to you or telling you like what's going to happen in the future. And here's an example: Mikey is flying to America in June. All right, so this is present continuous, is flying, or Mikey is going to America in June. So is going is our classic future tense, but then we say Mikey is flying. It's the same. The meaning is the same. I'm just using a different verb. This is old information. I'm using present continuous. in both of them essentially, but I'm choosing to use this verb flying and I'm speaking about the future. All right. Now, I know we talked about this when we were doing present tense anyway. Now, we need a future time reference with present continuous, or it makes it a little more, it's kind of what I would call a keyword, something like next week in the summer on Monday, because then we know we're talking about the future with present continuous. Like with going to, we don't need a future time reference always, just because we know that going to is always future. So Boženka is having a party next weekend, but she won't invite me because we're broken up right now. All right. So Boženka is having a party. So there we have it, next weekend. All right. Jan and Pat are selling their house next summer. So if I just say Jan and Pat are selling their house, period, that's present continuous, and that means they're doing it right now. They're in the process of it. But if I say next summer, it means they haven't started, they haven't called, they haven't listed it yet, and they haven't called. They are going to do that in the summer. All right. So present continuous is very common way we use it. Now, future continuous, the next two examples, future continuous and future perfect, are where people start to get a little confused and it's a little more difficult. And future continuous is, the first thing is how do we put it together? How do we form it? Because you probably are not necessarily have been exposed to this before. So we use it with the verb will. You're going to need will, and then you're going to need the verb be and an ing, and this is kind of classic present continuous, but we're going to put a will in there, so we're talking about the future. So I'm sorry to inform you, Mrs. Miller will be leaving the company. So will be leaving in July. I'm just showing you how it's created, where I'm not talking about the meaning yet. Here's a question. Will Tom be joining us in Austria next week? All right, so here's will, here's, we have to have our subject there before, and then we have be joining, it's a continuous, remember, continuous tense is always the ing tense, our ing verb. And then we have the negative, or the zapor, as I think you guys like to say it, in Czech. So Tom won't be joining us next week. He's busy. Won't, will not means won't. Hopefully you know that. Joining us next week. So this is just how we put it together. And you need to think about that. And again, he has, and I've added some additional exercises, I think, just practicing putting it together, because I know you may not have had a lot of practice with future continuous, even though maybe you figured out how to use it playing your games or watching stuff online. But when do we use it? And that's where we want to think of examples, all right? The best way to learn these next two tenses is to think of specific examples. These guidelines or rules can help, but thinking of it in context of a bigger story or narrative or conversation will make it easier or more or make it clear. All right. And so again, the idea of this continuous tense, like here we have it, an event that will be happening at a future point and will continue on for a limited period of time. So we're speaking about the future. It's not happening necessarily right now, but it is happening in the future. All right, excuse me. All right, so, and here's our example. Sorry, I'd like to join you for lunch on Tuesday, but I'll be giving a lecture. I will be giving, that is my future continuous. I will be. Here's next Tuesday, it's like out here, and here's the lunch. But during that time, I will be giving a lecture. So I will be doing something else. And again, this is kind of the idea of this, one of the ideas of this continuous tense. It's like something that's happening when some other specific event kind of interrupts it, and like an event that's continuing underneath it. All right. Um, and Vince gives you this because it is a polite form where you can normally just say will, but it's like very British and very polite because British actually are a little more polite in their language use than we are. Americans are a little rougher. So not always, that's a stereotype, but there is a sense of like proper British English is a little more polite than American English. So, or formal, let's say formal, let's not say, yeah, we can say whatever, polite. So here's our example. Will you be going to Kaufland later? I need some bananas. So I can say, will you go to Kaufland later? I can also say, are you going to Kaufland later? All of those things uh, are possible. So, but when I say, will you be going to Kaufland later? It just sounds like educated and polite. And will you be joining us for tea? Will Tom be flying also with you? It's like very sort of cultured and polite in that British kind of way. All right. But often you can use a more sort of just a normal future tense in those situations. Now, for fixed arrangements or a plan. So here we have, we will be arriving at the hotel just after lunch. We know that, all right? It's clear. In this sense, it's sort of like the idea of going to, it's not new information, it's already been planned. This is like kind of going to too. We'll be arriving at the hotel after, just after lunch. Uh, and again, you can say we'll arrive, we will arrive just after lunch, which is just normal kind of, will. It's not bad. We'll arrive, we will arrive. Just, it's like a fact in that sense. So, but I want you to learn this future continuous because as you get better in English, first of all, if you have to do any advanced exams in Cambridge and even our own advanced exam here, you need to know it. You need to be aware of it. You need to know it exists. You need to like have some idea of how to function with it. And when you see it in text or hear it, you know what it is. All right. And then again, we use it to describe events or things that which are going to happen. And there's a typo there. Come on, we all know Tony will be moving back in with Bojanka as soon as she says he can. I hope not. So Tony will be moving. So here we have it, right? What do we know? I don't, it's kind of this predictive idea again. It's like sort of this idea that this is what I think is going to happen. So Tony doesn't, that's me. I don't live with her right now, but my friends, I think that I will be moving back in at some point. All right. And again, my friends can say, oh, he'll move back in. He'll be back in. He'll be back in there by next month. Okay. So, and those are, just using the verb will. Yeah. So, now, so this is the main thing is, and number one is really like kind of the exclusive way we would use it. It's this event that's happening at a future point. Sorry, I'll be working in Slovakia at that time. This is kind of like the only place, this number one, where you really have to use this future continuous. Now, I want to look at future perfect because this makes everyone crazy. And you know, they just don't know how to figure it out and use it. And it's, whoa, present perfect's enough. And then there's past perfect. Now you want me to do future perfect? You know, and so let's think about how we form it. Yeah, this should come naturally to you. So we're going to use will. So that puts us in the future. And then, like a normal perfect tense, we have to use the verb have and the third form of the verb, or the past participle, as the grammar people say. And again, what is the idea? Well, first let's just talk about Charlotte will have gone home by the time we get there. So again, this is all stuff that's happening in the future. On, you know, and anytime we talk about the future, it's kind of a prediction, because, you know, we don't really know what's going to happen in the future. We just make, you know, assumptions and we guess, you know, but, you know, Charlotte will have gone. That's how we make it in a normal sentence. Will, and then have, and then third form of go, gone. And a question, will Julius have finished his house by then? This is, you know, a way to do this. Will Julius have finished his house by then? You know, we have we have will, we have our subject, then have finished, and then the negative, of course. The negative starts, or we make it negative by making the will negative, not have. So we won't have signed the contract at the end of the working day. All right, we wanted to, but we won't have signed it. We won't, you know. All right, so this is how we make it. We have our positive, our question, and our negative. Now, when do we use it? And again, it's a perfect tense, and here is the future, and it has, we're referencing this time out here, and then what comes before it. What comes before it, like any perfect tense. Present perfect, it's here now. I have worked at UYEP for 10 years, and this period of 10 years. Past perfect, I had worked at UYEP for 10 years when I got fired. I have worked at UYEP for 10 years, which means I still work here. And in February, which is out here because it's not February now, in February, I will have worked for UYEP for 10 years. I don't know if that helps. Those are our three main perfect tenses: present, have worked; past, had worked; and then future, I will have worked at UYEP for 10 years by January, or by February. That is key. All right. And this is sort of like one of the things, I don't know if I wrote this down, and again, Vince is fairly good with describing some of this, and I put some extra exercises in the Moodle as well. And here we have that by the end of the semester, Gerhard will have moved into his new flat with Diana. And so what we want to think of is by the end of the semester. So I'm talking about a specific point in the future. By the end of the semester, on his 17th birthday, by the day, on the wedding day. Now, I don't have to use present perfect or future perfect when I'm using those words, but that idea, those words are like keywords that I know I'm speaking about a specific time or place in the future. Another one, at the end of November, he will have stopped smoking for 2 years. That's a continuous, will have stopped smoking. No, it's not continuous, sorry. At the end of November, So what do we know? He quit smoking almost 2 years ago. It's not the end of November now, it's coming soon. And at the end of November, on November 30th, by the end of November, out here somewhere, he will have stopped smoking for 2 years. All right. So that is the sort of idea. And again, there's a continuous form with future perfects, and that would be will have been working, and I don't want to bother that. I don't want to bother you with that today. Because it might be a little confusing if we were working together in a classroom. It'd be a bit easier. We could spend some time with it, but it exists. And again, the continuous sort of it functions as the same idea, an event in progress that's kind of often underlying something else out in the future. But I don't want to, I want you to think of it. I want you to look at by the end of the semester and at the end of a specific point, okay? And that's the difference between this and the future continuous, all right? So, and then he gives you, Vince gives you a few other examples of how we use these sort of phrases and verb tenses. We can use present simple. They're in his book. They're in the book there. It's all explained here, and I don't want to go into it today with you. But again, this is a self-learner. Spend time with it. These are simple. He gives really good explanations with this. And I think most of you use this. The one hope is especially useful, but but I don't want to bother you with that today. So basically, this is just a review or a discussion about the future tense. Tenses we use in English, again, remember, will, going to are two main future tenses. And then we also use present continuous, which is essentially going to, and then we have this future continuous and future perfect. And do your exercises. Look at that, and good luck. And that's all for now. And have a good one. Have a good one.